All right, Sean Lennon here with the Fightlete Report. We welcome back here on Talking Shop Podcast, Gorgeous George. And just to tell you who he is the host of MMA Junkie Radio Podcast, twice weekly show for the realest MMA fans, along with his co-host, Brian Goze Garcia, giving their expert opinions and reactions to the news, analysis of the fights, interviews of the biggest names in sport. Guys, it's a great podcast. Please check it out. Always been a fan, and luckily have Gorgeous George here on the Fightlete Report. And check it every Monday and Thursday on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and AudioBoom. And George, coming live from us from Vegas, appreciate your time again on the Fightlete Report.
How you doing?
I'm doing well, man. I'm doing good. I'm so excited for this weekend's UFC. I mean, obviously the media is coming out for it. You know what I mean? All the interviews, trickling down, and then we get to like the media day, then it comes to the weigh-in, face-off. I mean, I think when we announced this fight, many people were both excited. They were both anticipating, both excitement and anticipation for a huge fight between two of the best right now in UFC.
Yeah, and even before we get to Saturday, we get the midweek card on Wednesday with Michael Chiesa and Neil Magny. So that'll be nice. We get the 3-fight card in 8 days. We just came off the one with Holloway and Cater, and then we got this one Wednesday, and then Saturday is going to be a massive way to start the year with that pay-per-view. Conor McGregor and Dustin Poirier. Unfortunately, not for a belt.
No. But, I think this fight holds up on its own. It's a big rematch. They've been waiting, years for these guys to come back in the cage. And I think Dustin Poirier has changed a lot since that first fight. Conor McGregor, of course, he has elevated to the biggest pinnacle that the sport has ever seen. Obviously, when it comes to marketing, the guy's a genius outside the cage. And then everything he puts into his fights is amazing. As we saw the last fight with Donald Cerrone, a huge knockout victory for him in the first round, very dominant. And so the question is, what can Dustin Poirier bring to this table this time that'll be different than his last fight?
Well, he's more experienced, and he's also more experienced in that division. So Dustin moved up since the last – well, they both did. They both moved up since the last time. And Dustin's been through a lot of wars. He's been through a lot of 5-round fights. And I think he's not – I wouldn't say intimidated by Conor, but I think Conor did get into his head and push the right buttons the first time. So I think this time Dustin's going to let all that stuff go in one ear and out the other, and he's just going to let his business do the talking on Saturday. Now, that said, Conor McGregor is the most dangerous fighter there is, along with Francis Ngannou and a few of these other guys that just can thump you in the first round. The first 5 minutes, you got to get past them. And then once you do, and they start to, you start to settle down a little bit, they've kind of like busted a nut, we'll say. And then they're still great fighters, but I believe a lot of their mystique kind of goes away with, after the first round. You realize, hey, he's human just like me. You know what I mean? And then you start playing a little bit of that human chess. But the first round is going to be checkers.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's going to be exciting, very early on. And Dustin Poirier and Conor McGregor, both these guys have great striking. So, I mean, I don't believe they've been in a boring fight in recent history.
Can't think of one. I really can't. Maybe the boxing. Versus Mayweather, but that's it. They're both worth every single penny. And you know what sucks is I bet you by the end of the day, McGregor will get paid anywhere between, I don't know, 10 and 20 million. Poirier, God, I hope that kid takes home $1 million. I'd like for him to take home at least $1 million, win or lose, and then for that charity to take home another $1 million. McGregor already said he'd write a check for $500,000. So if the UFC and the kit that he gives away and all that, if they could raise another $1 million, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, it would be. Conor's last opponent, Donald Cerrone, he got kind of lower end of that pay scale. He only got $200,000 to show and $200,000 to win.
I always wonder though if they get a little bit of a bonus in the back. What they show us isn't necessarily really an indicator. I think what they show us is those numbers like 250 or 300, and we know all the champions get a share of a pay-per-view. But what we've come to find out is there's a lot of big names that negotiate pay-per-views into their contracts as well. So they may not get $5 a pay-per-view or $3 a pay-per-view or $2, but even if they get 75 cents or something, it all starts to add up with certain bonuses. And that's why I hope that even though Nevada doesn't release the numbers like they used to, one way we'll come to find out what their base pay is. On top of the base pay, I hope they can get somewhere in that mark. I mean, anybody that steps into Conor McGregor should get their share as well.
Oh, I agree, and I think that this is going to be a fight to remember. Obviously, Dustin Poirier. It says he's got something different for Conor this time. I mean, he says that that this might be more of a dog fight, than a quick fight. It might be one he's ready to get messy, get in dirt with. Will Conor be able to come out on top with a huge knockout? After hearing that, and how prepared do you think Conor is to go to distance?
I like hearing that, with the exception of McGregor's still a one-punch knockout artist. He only needs one good, clean shot, and you don't want to be on the receiving end of that. Now, of course, I'm not saying that's what's going to happen, but Michael Johnson hit Dustin Poirier with a clean one-punch knockout, so it's not like it can't happen. It can, and I don't think you want to play that game. A lot of fighters will say, I'll take one to give two or whatever. I still think you want to use your proper boxing and roll with punches, slip punches, counter, and start to put a little bit of pressure on them. You got to check those bullies. Now, McGregor's not a bully. I mean, he's a media bully. But McGregor's just one of those guys where he dictates the pace, and so the minute the referee says, let's fight, you notice McGregor all of a sudden charges across, and he'll do that against anybody, and he'll dictate the pace. And I think right away he mind fucks people. Even Khabib, when that fight first started, he went all the way across, and Khabib was very careful in when he was eventually going to shoot in, and that told me that Khabib was probably, about for 2 minutes at least trying to settle down. Finally, he did get the takedown. It wasn't easy for him to get that riding position that he likes to get. McGregor tied him up, and by the time he did do something with it, I think most of the first round had gone, and they both walked back to their corners. So Khabib didn't have necessarily that type of first round that he does against others, where he just, absolutely obliterates everybody. But he did exhaust a little bit of Conor's gas tank. So, you have to give up something. If you are going to be the pressure guy, you're going to run out of juice. Conor's best strength has never been his cardio. So that's why a lot of Poirier backers feel like the longer it goes, the better for Poirier.
Yeah, I could see that as well. And I think that's what Poirier's been alluding to in his recent interviews. We'll see, come Saturday night. I'm favoring Conor McGregor for this fight, even though I think Poirier's a strong opponent. I think that, that strategy plays well if everything goes his way. But we've seen Conor just derail guys like Jose Aldo. I mean, that one-punch knockout, it can happen. And I'm going with Conor McGregor in this fight, and I think it happens by knockout, maybe the second round.
Hey, that could very well happen. But I'm going to go with Poirier with a finish in the 4th or 5th round.
Really? So what's at fault here with Conor McGregor, this Conor McGregor?
I just feel like he's very precise, accurate, powerful, fast, crisp, everything you want out of a fighter in that first round and for portions of the second. And I think his spirits drop, where I think it's a little bit of his spirits, his confidence, because the win will still beat the win, but he realizes that it's not what was mapped out. I feel like he has something mapped out, whether it's visually or written down. And those are the big steps he takes in his superstardom. So, for instance, if he can really get a first-round KO in 60 seconds, he's just rockets straight up, to another level. And if he gets a win and it's a decision, he'll still be happy. He'll still take a few steps up where he wanted to go, but it's not like what he designed. Now, I'll give you an example. In the Nate Diaz fight, the second one, after that third round, he was demoralized. I think Diaz could have picked him off and either finished him or just won the fight. But he did dig deep. But you could see it when he was sitting in between rounds. Even the coach had to say, hey, you only got 2 rounds left. I mean, he wasn't even giving him like proper advice and in terms of X's and O's and everything. He was just playing the mind game and keeping him psychologically in there, trying to remind him, look, just give me 10 minutes. You know, don't quit on me. And the next thing you know, he picked up a second win and he was able to get Nate Diaz. I don't believe that was the best Nate Diaz out there, but it doesn't matter because it's the Nate Diaz that showed up. You know, so like I say, you notice that his body language is a little bit different after that first round. You just got to get past that. But in the first round, he's probably 10 feet tall, you know, and you feel like you're facing King Kong.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I guess we'll have to see what Dustin does. I mean, I think that this is a fight that's going to be mostly a stand-up fight. I'm not sure how keen if McGregor wants to, you know, go to ground with him. I'm sure he's not going to be likely to stay down there much longer. You know, if Poirier can, you know, just come out and dominate with the wrestling, then I could see this fight, you know, staying the course of a longer fight. But if McGregor can stuff the takedowns early, and if those takedowns do come, if McGregor keeps that fight standing, I just think Poirier plays right into him, and the fact that he knocked him out the first time.
If McGregor can keep it standing and his cardio is top notch, he's close to unbeatable. But what I've seen out of the fights that he's had is he has these dips. I'll give him credit. He's addressed it, and he manages his efficiency a little bit better, especially after those 60 seconds. If he can't do anything spectacular, he starts to settle down, and that comes with experience. But again, I just noticed there's this complete letdown of himself because he hasn't hit the script the way he wanted to. Even in Khabib, the fight that they had, you know, I think he was pleased with the first round. He could live with it. He knew he was a little bit tired, but he mitigated a lot of the damage. Then in the second round, I believe, is when Khabib actually, boom, knocked him down. He knocked him down with a punch and then really, really demoralized it. Now, again, McGregor brushes himself off, dusts himself off, and he comes back and wins round 3. You know what I mean? I thought, man, right for the taking, but what we did was we focused so much on McGregor and what he could do and what he needed to do and what he was doing that we forgot Khabib's a beast. Khabib, I'm not saying he may have given him round 3, but I think Khabib was playing a certain game as well, and then Khabib said enough. He got in there, took him down in round 4, and then he was just surgical at that point, and you know he broke him.
Definitely. I mean, you know, you think about it, the winner of this fight possibly facing Khabib. I mean, that is not a prize. The
4 guys have to impress and maybe even out-impress Oliveira because Khabib kept mentioning Oliveira's name, or at least Dana White did, and perhaps he'll come back. And it sucks because on ABC I wanted to get this big announcement, but sounds like we got to wait till either Saturday night or apparently they're going to meet sometime around now next week and for sure give us a final answer. So, you know, I guess worst things worse, Khabib will have held up the division for 3 months, even though he did clearly tell us he was retired, and he reiterated it in a few of the interviews he's done in Russia. So it's Dana White that's wanted to keep him in the game, but we'll see.
Definitely, and it's a short trip to Fight Island this week too. Just about 2 weeks. I mean, 2 weeks trip to Fight Island.
Yeah. So I'm glad that, you know, I mean, last time they were there for 5 weeks.
Yeah.
And I'm sure they rotated the staff, but there's only one Dana, and I'm not sure what they did with the matchmakers if they were there the whole time. So they were in this instance. That's not a bad run, you know, 3 shows in 8 days, and you come back to Vegas and start doing stuff here. But at least they're testing the waters with a crowd, some of a crowd. And we'll see if Dana White gets excited about that. There was a crowd there on Saturday, and they're supposed to be for all 3 shows. So That's pretty cool. I mean, the Apex Center, I think they can get like 1,000 people in there, and I suppose with COVID restrictions, maybe they can get 250 in there. But I'll tell you what, that's about the amount of people they used to have for Dana White Contender Series in the old gym, and it still got crazy in there, man. You know what I mean? So hopefully he warms up to it.
Definitely. Well, we're at the halfway point of the podcast, so we might as well talk about the co-main event with Hooker and Chandler. Another exciting fight at 155 because this is Chandler's debut in UFC, and he comes from Bellator, three-time champion, and a lot of hype, a lot of we haven't really gotten this excited about a newcomer in UFC in quite some time. Coming from another promotion. I think the last one we had something like this is Ben Askren, who came over from ONE FC. So just trying to live up to the hype is Michael Chandler, and now he's got Dan Hooker in front of him, who is another talented fighter, very great striker. He's got big finishes. He's got a lot of confidence. Although he lost the fight to Poirier, he admitted that he was not his best. Even in a great fight like that, which was like a fight of the night, just kind of caught my eye that he said that, So going to this one, how do you feel they're going to perform?
I did want to touch on one point you made, which is pretty interesting. There is excitement when the UFC signs a free agent, now that I think about it, because there was big hype behind Ben Askren, and then the fight with Robbie Lawler had controversy, but he won, and of course he played on that pretty well.
Yes.
And then I was thinking before that it was Chris Cyborg, I suppose, and then Eddie Alvarez, and there's been a few others, obviously, but I think the UFC should look into doing this a little bit more often because there is some hype around the Chandler, Chandler free agent signing. Now, as far as you beat Michael Chandler and you do impressively, you might find yourself in a title shot. I don't know if Habib was being kind by including all four of them, or if all this is just one big mind fuck just towards the McGregor camp. I don't know. But he mentioned these four and he mentioned Oliveira. So Hooker's got to do something special. The only problem is Hooker's got KOs. He's probably got about one less or one more than Chandler. I don't have them memorized, but they're pretty close, 10-9 or something like that. But he can put you out. I remember he put James Vick out. And but I think more of the one-punch threat that we've seen over the years resides with Michael Chandler. If he can do something like what he did to Patricky Frady, where he completely iced him, and then he runs on the cage and does the backflip, and if he can do it and do it pretty quick, I don't know. He might get lucky and find himself in a situation. I was saying, you got to do something to wow this guy. That's what he's asking. Play the USA Russia angle. Maybe say my wrestling's better than yours. I got one punch power and I can wrestle. You can only wrestle. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what it's going to take, but he's got to impress against Hooker, and then he's got to hope that Poirier and McGregor don't impress. But see, those two, both guys have fought Habib. Does Habib really want to do a rematch? I don't know. I suppose the UFC really wants the McGregor rematch. They'll really push for it if McGregor wins. But if Poirier wins, does Habib want to do that? I mean, he only fought him one fight ago. It was Gaethje and then Poirier. So who knows? And does he want to fight Oliveira? Oliveira is really not known as an established name. Respect to Oliveira. He's got like 20 fights, I believe. And he's been looking good. And he did take out Tony Ferguson. But I don't know that he's the marquee name. You know what I mean? Right. So every single fighter has a chance here. That said, I'm going to go with Michael Chandler. And I think it's because he carries that one punch power that's very, very impressive, and it's live at all times. If it turns into a 5-round kickboxing match over the 25 minutes, then I would think Hooker probably winds up winning something like that.
Yeah, that's true. I'm going with Michael Chandler in this fight too. I think he's more versatile offense and great power, great speed. And I just think he's going to be a tougher matchup for Hooker. I think Hooker has faced a lot of tough guys from Poirier, Tetson Barbosa when he was doing well. And I just think that this is his time to either show that he belongs to that top tier, or he may, be on the undercard or fade away a little bit. I'm not saying he's going to be on the prelims, but, may find himself like, first fight of the night and the next card if he does suffer the loss.
Yeah, and also keep an eye on Hooker to see if he attacks the legs. He attacked Felder's legs. Let's see if he attacks Chandler's legs.
Definitely. I think it's an exciting fight. And, with Michael Chandler in the UFC, there's going to be so many great fights for him. It makes this division even more stacked than it was. And then it's just going to be ridiculous because, every guy in that like top 10 is going to be a star. I really think so.
Yeah, that division is stacked. I would say even 10 through 20 is pretty impressive, but the UFC's got a lot of talent. The only problem is they don't have an active champion. They've had a lot of run of bad luck with just inactivity is the best way I can say it. Even when McGregor beat Alvarez, the first thing he did was fight Floyd Mayweather, so and then Khabib really only fights once, maybe twice a year. This division that is so deep. How does a guy like Tony Ferguson win like 13 straight and doesn't even actually get in there and compete? Now, I know he signed to compete for a world title, and I know he became an interim champion, but still, that was pretty mind-boggling to me. It was mind-boggling to me when Rafael Assunção won like 8 or 9 straight, and he couldn't get a title shot. Sometimes once these guys, it's just not fair when you look back.
I agree. In the 170-pound division, obviously we didn't have, the big fight that was supposed to be that weekend was supposed to be Khamzat Chimaev and Leon Edwards, but I think it's still a very competitive fight in the welterweight division. So how do you feel about Magny and Chiesa, both 3-fight win streaks?
I don't know how to feel because Chiesa's got some impressive wins, but 2 of them are guys that have been past their prime. RDA went back to 155, although he had a great run at welterweight. So I think he caught guys on the way down within that division or within just their overall career. But still, he did well against them. Neil Magny has this sample size of at least a dozen fights where he's competed. Even when he's losing, he's competed. He's a tough out. And then when he wins, he basically just suffocates you, Right. So Chiesa has got his hands full. I think this is the fight that's going to tell us more about where Chiesa really stands. Now, that said, I just like how Chiesa has improved. I think he's grown well into his frame, and I think he can beat Neil Magny. I think he just has a good pace, and I think Neil Magny is, like I say, above average in almost every department, but not really spectacular, other than just the stifling ground game that he does have. The fact that he can make you fight at his pace, and it is a 25-minute fight. But I still believe that Chiesa is taking big strides and improving now, and I think a lot of it has come from him being a commentator too.
Definitely. I mean, obviously, had time off and he wasn't competing as frequently, so he had that opportunity because this is his first fight in about a year. So he beat Dos Anjos, and I think he was out of an injury. I know he was supposed to compete in a grappling fight, which didn't happen as well. But Neil Magny's been active and very active in 2020. 3 straight victories, and I feel like the fact that it's been a bit of while. I'm not saying there's ring rust, but I think Magny's just been active. He's been going in there. So one of the fights he won by the skin of his teeth. You know what I'm saying? It was such a close. It was a razor nail split decision. And then the dominant win over Robbie Lawler. I think he has that confidence to take on the best in that welterweight division has to offer, and he wants to eventually climb and get a title shot. He's training with Kamaru Usman, at Elevation Fight Team, who is the champion currently of the welterweight division. So that's interesting to take note of. I'm going with Neil Magny on this fight. It's going to be tooth and nail, but I'm going with Neil Magny with decision.
I can't blame you, man. I think if you put a gun to my head and said, I'm pulling the trigger if you don't get it right, I might go with Neil Magny. He just has more stock in that division, honestly. Yes. He's giving me more, tangible data to sift through and see what he can do. It's just that I feel like Chiesa is about to blow up, at least within the welterweight division. And So I'm kind of rolling the dice a little bit with that guy. He's a slight underdog, and you know how when it's right on,
Yeah.
if it's close, I'll usually fight with the underdog. So I think that's what I'm doing.
Okay. Yeah, I would suggest people go for Neil Magny, and that's just me. I think both fighters have great cases. When it comes to this fight to be the victor. So I think they've both shown that they've had big victories, and they put it together real well. So I'm excited for these two in the welterweight division, and then of course we'll see Khamzat Chimaev and Leon Edwards hopefully one day.
Yeah, they're really adamant about making it happen. A lot of times when fights fall out, they just find new opponents for them. But they're keeping that pairing together, and frankly, there's probably not many people that are willing to fight Chimaev. And I think it's already booked for March, if I'm not mistaken. So that's cool. Can't wait for it. Both guys have had the COVID now, so it's rare that somebody gets it twice. Right. And hopefully that's the case here. Both guys have recovered, and they'll give us a great fight. And let's see who's the truth. Either Chimaev is that new star that the UFC's been looking for, or Edwards is that next contender, I suppose, at 170 after Burns and Usman, after they do their thing in February. I got to imagine, because Covington and Masvidal are sitting on their hands and they haven't done anything since their fights. Well, I take it back. Covington did just win. But, I thought Masvidal wanted to get back in there with Usman with a proper camp, but we haven't seen any sort of a fight booking yet. So in the meantime, Edwards could steal some hype back. He hasn't fought in, I think it's about the 18th month mark right now. By the time he fights, it'll be like three months shy of 2 years.
That's true. So when he gets this fight out of the way against Khamzat, let's say he does come out the victor, who would you rather see George fight? Would you rather see, who potentially you see him fight? If Khamzat gets the victory, could George fight Khamzat? Could George fight Leon Edwards or Colby Covington? Out of those three, who would you want to see him fight?
I would rather see Khamzat Chimaev fight Covington, because I think it'd be interesting to see both grapplers test their skill against each other.
Yeah.
And boy, that really skyrockets Chimaev if he can get past Covington, because that's a pace, man, that Covington puts on people.
Yes.
And it would more than likely go, a full 25. Although that knockout Chimaev put on Mearshart, wow, that woke us all up. We were like, whoa, this guy can fight, So I think that's what I would rather do. I think the best pairing we can do is Covington versus Masvidal, but for whatever reason, it's not happening. So yeah, I'd rather see Masvidal against a striker like Edwards, and I'd rather see Covington versus a grappler like Chimaev.
Yeah, those are interesting fights. And George, we're about running out of time, so we appreciate you being on the Fight Work today, talking shop, and we are excited for UFC 257. Everybody, check it out Saturday live on pay-per-view. And what are you doing for the fight? Tell everybody, what you've got going on.
Goze and I are going to be hosting a watch-along for UFC 257 on Saturday, 10 Eastern, 7 Pacific. That's the start time of the pay-per-view. So we're going to watch all 5 fights on Sportscaster. Our channel is www.sportscaster.com/MMA So what I tell people is, if you're ordering the pay-per-view, you can still come in and hang out with us. We got a chat room. You can mute those guys occasionally and listen to Goze and I. We're goofing off. We're drinking beer. We're having pizza. Or if you didn't order the pay-per-view, then just tune in to us. We'll tell you exactly what's happening. So either way, you hang out with us. And like I say, it's always a good time. We've been doing these for a couple years now, and we anticipate having a lot of people tuning in for McGregor versus Poirier.
Excellent, man. Well, check out MMA Junkie Radio every Monday, Thursday, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, AudioBoom, and other streaming platforms. And George, it's been a pleasure talking to you. Enjoy UFC 257, my friend. And I'll talk to you soon.